Today, I'm going to show you 5 warning signs that indicate your leadership team is already in trouble. And guess what? You probably normalized most of what I'm going to cover. Here's the thing that nobody or few people in the leadership development world will say out loud. Most middle market companies don't fail because of bad strategy. They fail because their leadership team stops working as a functioning system. And they didn't notice until it was too late. 5 signs, 5 problems, 5 ways out. And warning sign number 3 is the one I'd bet money you haven't considered at all. So let's start with warning sign number 1. Protective withdrawal. Your team isn't quiet quitting. They're doing something worse. You've heard about quiet quitting. It dominated the news cycle for about 2 years. But that framing was about employees, individual contributors, those people checking out. What's happening inside your leadership team right now is different, and it costs far more. It's called protective withdrawal, and you're probably mistaking it for alignment. Protective withdrawal happens when work goes from being a source of satisfaction to a threat. It's a type of burnout. Your leadership team stops challenging each other in meetings. Decisions feel smooth. Nobody disagrees. The room seems functional. It's not. They've learned that disagreement comes with a cost. Friction, politics, and being labeled as not a team player. So leadership team members withdraw the very thing that you hired them for, their judgment. Here's what that costs you. Each week, every decision your leadership team makes without honest challenge is a decision made on incomplete information. Multiply that by 52 weeks, then multiply that by the number of strategic choices your team makes in a year. That's not quiet quitting. That's organizational erosion at the top. The fix is not a culture survey. It's creating the conditions where dissent is structurally safe. Psychological safety, real psychological safety, is not a feeling. It's a set of behaviors your team either practices or it doesn't. And I'll come back to exactly how you measure psychological safety correctly in warning sign number 4, because most companies are measuring it wrong. But first, warning sign number 2. And this one is hiding in your calendar. Warning sign number 2 is decisions that don't stick. Now you've had the meeting, you've made the decision, nothing changes. Show of hands. How many times in the last quarter did your leadership team agree on something in a meeting, and then 2 weeks later, it was as if the conversation never even happened? This is not a follow-up problem. This is not an accountability problem. Lack of follow-up and lack of accountability are symptoms. The real problem is that your leadership team is making decisions without shared ownership. Here's what's actually happening. In most executive meetings, decisions are made by the most senior voice in the room. Everyone nods, but nodding is not commitment. It's compliance. And compliant people, they don't execute with urgency. True team decisions require something most leadership teams skip entirely: explicit agreement on who is accountable, what success looks like, and which stakeholders are affected by the outcome. Without those 3 things, you don't have a decision. You have a conversation that each person will remember differently. This pattern leads to decision drift. This is where the strategy remains, but execution gives way to short-term pressures during execution. It's one of the most expensive, invisible costs in a growing company. Research on high-performing executive teams consistently shows that the gap between decisions made and decisions implemented isn't necessarily an execution problem. It's an alignment conversation problem that starts at the top. The fix is structural. In addition to speaking up with psychological safety, every significant leadership team decision needs a named owner, a 30-day review point, and explicit communication with impacted stakeholders. That's not bureaucracy. That's how decisions become actions. But here's what makes warning sign 3 even harder to fix, because it's not something your leadership team is doing wrong. It's something the market is doing to you right now. Warning sign number 3, the missing layer. Now, many companies are eliminating middle management. If yours is too, your leadership team is not ready for what's coming next. According to the Economic Times, Gartner predicted that AI would reduce middle management layers by up to 50% by the end of 2026. That prediction was not wrong. It's happening in companies right now, including likely yours. And the conversation in boardrooms has been to create leaner organizations and lower overhead. But that conversation is missing quite a bit. Middle managers are not just approvers and message forwarders. They are the connective tissue between your leadership team's decisions and your frontline execution. They translate strategy into daily behavior. They hold the cultural norms. They spot problems before they become crises. When you remove that layer through AI, through restructuring, through attrition, the distance between your leadership team and the rest of your organization doubles overnight. Your people can feel it. They don't know why, but they feel less seen, less connected to the direction of the company, less certain their work matters. The leadership teams winning in this environment are doing something counterintuitive. They're not trying to replace middle managers with software. They are redesigning how the leadership team itself communicates more directly, more often, and more deliberately to the people who used to be one layer removed. That takes a new kind of collective behavior, and most leadership teams don't have it yet. Warning sign 4 is the one I find most fascinating because it's about something every leadership team thinks it's already doing right. Almost none of them are. Warning sign number 4, the green light trap. I alluded to this earlier in warning sign number 1. You're measuring psychological safety wrong, and the data is giving you false confidence. Google's Project Aristotle made psychological safety the most talked about concept in leadership development. And that's mostly good. It's a good thing. But here's what happened next. Companies started measuring it. They send out surveys. They have questions like, do you feel comfortable speaking up? Do you feel your ideas are valued? People click 5 out of 5. The leadership team celebrates, then moves on. And your best people stay silent. There's a pattern I see over and over in leadership teams that score highly on psychological safety surveys. What they've actually built is a culture of performing psychological safety. People are not comfortable speaking up. They are comfortable appearing to be comfortable speaking up. This is the green light trap. Your dashboard shows green. Your people know better than to tell you it's red. The real signal isn't what people say in surveys. It's what they do when the stakes are high. Does your leadership team speak up when a senior leader is about to make a mistake? I mean, in the room, not in the hallway afterwards? Do people name a bad idea when the person who had it is the most powerful person present? Do team members bring unfinished, uncertain thinking to the group or only polished positions they can defend. If those behaviors are absent, you don't have psychological safety. You have social harmony. And social harmony is the enemy of high performance. The fix starts with the leader modeling fallibility, not performing it, not, I encourage you all to be vulnerable, but actually saying in the room, I got this wrong, here's what I missed. That behavior from the most senior person is the only thing that makes it safe for others to do the same. And here's why that matters more than you might think. Because warning sign 5 is the one with the price tag your CFO can read. Warning sign number 5, the retention equation. You raised salaries, you added benefits, they left anyway. Here's the real reason. Retention is a top 3 concern for middle market CEOs right now, and the default solution has been compensation. Bigger base, better equity, more flexibility. And yet, the turnover continues. Because people do not leave companies for money, they leave because of how it feels to work inside the system you've built. They leave because they've watched leadership make decisions that never land. Because they've been managed by someone who protects their turf over serving the customer. Because they've raised their hand and had nobody acknowledge them or reach out. Your best people have options. What keeps them isn't the number on their offer letter. It's the answer to one question they're asking themselves every single day. Is this team worth my best work? When your leadership team is fragmented, when trust is low, when accountability is murky, and strategic direction keeps shifting, that question answers itself. And the best people leave first because they can. The companies getting this right are not spending more on retention programs. They're investing in the leadership team's operating system, how they communicate, how they make decisions, how they hold each other accountable, not as individuals, but as a collective system with shared purpose. That's the shift from individual leadership development to systemic team coaching, from building better leaders in isolation to building a leadership team that functions as a whole. Here's the through line of all 5 warning signs. Protective withdrawal, decisions that don't stick, the missing middle layer, measured but absent psychological safety, talent you can't afford to lose, walking out the door. These are not separate problems. They are 5 symptoms of a single root cause, a leadership team that hasn't been developed as a system. Most organizations build leaders. Almost none build leadership teams. There's a difference between having a great group of individual leaders and having a team that operates as a coherent, accountable, stakeholder-focused system. The first is common, the second is rare. And the second is what determines whether your company scales or stalls. Coaching the leadership team as a complex adaptive system addresses the team as a living unit, not individual behavior in isolation, the collective habits, the shared blind spots, the relationship patterns under pressure, the clarity or lack of it about who the team is actually there to serve. This is the work, and it's available to you right now. If any of those 5 signs felt familiar, if you paused on one and thought, that's us, it's not a problem. That's information. The leaders who act on that information are the ones who will look back in 12 months and won't believe how different their team operates. Start by asking one honest question in your next leadership team meeting. What's the thing we are not saying out loud? See what happens. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.